I love you twice. Take a look at my favorite dog. That's Charlie. Is that the most beautiful? That's my floor director Brooke's dog. I'm in love with Charlie.
I'll have to tell my Brooke not to watch this episode then, because
It's true, yeah.
she thinks Bailey is your favorite dog.
I know she does. But I'm telling you, there's something about this dog. She brought it one time. I wish she'd bring it again. And I mean, it's like the personality matches that look. Because, you know, sometimes a dog like that, and you get near them, they go, "Rrr," you know. I mean, the dog, I think the dog's human. And she and Matt are training it. So everybody's going to love the dog because it's going to be well-trained. You know, it's like a well-trained child in a restaurant. Like the other day, I actually did that. This family had all kinds of kids, and it was, and I turned around to them, and I mean, there was no screaming, kicking, or whatever, you know, like they just drive you nuts. And I turned around and I said, I want to compliment you. You have wonderful children. They go, well, thank you. I mean, that's just so rare today.
It can be a rare thing to see, yeah.
It is.
Children aren't disciplined much anymore.
Yeah. Okay, hey, Dave, get a shot of my shirt because I got to tell the people about that. A good friend of mine, he's a professor at Liberty University in Lynchburg, Virginia. He sent me on my 80th birthday, octogenarian, birthday. I got this box in the mail. It was sent here. Why he didn't send it to the house, I don't know. But he sent it here. And as I'm starting to open it, I'm going, because I have guests sometimes will send me, you know, like a cup or something, whatever, and I go, okay, but I'm getting into it, and I'm going, and it's a gold box sent from California, and I go, wow. So I thought, there's no name on it. Who's it from? So I open it up, you know, the beautiful, you know, papers inside, and I see the shirt, and I go, wow. So I mean, the shirt is really detailed. I mean, I'm a detail nut. Can you see the back of it? Can they show that back, Dave? How it comes back here? See it? Can they get a shot of that so I don't think I'm crazy? Did they get a shot of that?
Yeah, they got it. It's on there.
Good. Yeah. Anyway, it's really detailed. So I was just telling Dale, the label inside, or the name inside, it's embroidered. So I look at this shirt laying in the package, and I'm going, somebody knows me really well, but who is this from? So I had to dig, and finally I found the professor. I don't know if he wants me to give his name. He's a professor in Lynchburg, Virginia. And in fact, he was your professor.
Yes.
Well-known guy, isn't he?
Yes.
I mean, he's brilliant.
He's a great guy.
Does he match your brilliance?
Oh, he's far smarter than I'll ever be. Yeah. No, he's smart man.
Because he tells me how smart you are.
No, he's smarter. No.
Yeah. So anyway, I was just blown away that he did that. But it was for my 80th birthday. It's really a beautiful shirt, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Very nice.
It's as comfortable as it is good looking. We're going to be talking about
Proverbs 22.
Yeah, it's part 18.
Part 18,
Can you
but
believe
chapter 22.
We've gone through from 1 to 18.
I can't even believe that we've been doing this 6.5 or 7 years. I've lost track now.
7 years.
Every week for 7 years. And it started off as an experiment.
It did.
That's remarkable.
Actually, Rick Wolf, our head of production, said, "Is there any way to get Dave back again? Because you used to do a show."
Yes.
And you had some wealthy person that footed that gave the money for the show, so that kind of ended. And he said, "Is there any?" And so, when he said that, somehow it triggered something in my mind. So I jog. So I get more ideas when I'm jogging. For some odd reason, I guess I clear my brain. So I was jogging, and I go, I'm not kidding you, Dave. I saw this setting. I saw this, just the way we're doing it. It was like, because I get pictures in my mind when I produce or whatever, and I saw this, and I'm going, and this is the way it's been.
Yeah.
I mean, it was almost like a vision, and here we are, almost 7 years now.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and people love it. I mean, I actually think this is more popular than It's Time with Herman and Sharon.
Well, that'd be a big challenge because
we've
you've been
been
on the air for
40
years.
40
years, yeah.
Yeah, 40 years. Yeah. But anyway, let's get into Proverbs because I love this subject material, Proverbs.
This is an admonition that we all know is true, but we don't take much comfort in it, and we should. A good name is to be chosen rather than great riches, loving favor rather than silver or gold.
Now, how do you pull that off, Dave?
Well, the key word there is chosen. That's the key word of this passage, is chosen. That means you have a decision to make as to what you are going to pursue. Living a life that will grant you and earn you a good name and favor with God, or pursue wealth and riches. So when you watch people and you look at the world and you see who's really better off, the quiet, humble man who has a good name, or the guy who's driving the yacht, has his house paid for and gets to travel around the world, really, who has it better? Well, it's the point of reference is with God. It's not your life is going to be better on earth because you have a good name. Your good name might get you killed. Your good name might make you a martyr. So it's not saying a good name is to be chosen by you because it makes your life more pleasant than having all the money in the world can make your life pleasant. That's not the contrast. It's the value before the Lord. The Lord will honor that good name more than all that wealth and prosperity.
Oh, that's so good, Dave.
And then verse 2, the rich and the poor have this in common. The Lord is the maker of them all.
Wow.
Now, when you read that, you wonder, to whom is that targeted? Is it to the rich person or the poor person? Yeah. To whom is that an encouragement? To whom is it a warning? Now, what's the results of that, of reading that? In my mind, to the poor, it's a comfort to know that the same God who made the person that you're admiring from afar, thinking, oh, that guy is so amazing, or that woman is so special, they have so many incredible blessings, God's favors upon them, that no, God made me too.
Wow.
To the rich person, it's humbling.
Yeah.
So to the poor, it exalts them, and to the rich, it brings them down.
And that the way you explain that is amazing. That is amazing.
And so it's given to make the ground level be, it's the Lord, it's not about you.
Yeah. Oh.
The Lord makes us all, and we're all valuable to God.
We could get that in our head. You know, just recently I concentrate on the fact that He is perfect in everything He does. He never makes a mistake. He never has to go back, like you see the politician going back and saying, well, let me rephrase that because people have misunderstood. I didn't mean so-and-so. He doesn't have to do that. He's perfect in every decision, whether you agree with it or not. He has never and will never make a mistake. Never. That's who we serve.
Yes. And He never panics. He's never caught off guard. He's never surprised. He's never late to the game. He's never doing anything on the fly.
Yeah.
It's all ordained, established, and set.
He never has to say, I didn't see that coming.
No, because he transcends time.
Yeah.
So to God, the future is just as well known to Him as the past.
How could we date everyone? Because again, I'm exercising outside, and I'll look at the sky and all of the creation, and I think, the one that made that, and above that sky, 1 billion miles, are stars.
Yes.
And He put those in place, exact. And if one falls out of place, it'll take years for it ever to become a shooting star.
And we didn't know until the last 20 years that a lot of the things that we used to think were stars are actually galaxies.
Yes. Yes.
There's over 1 billion galaxies.
Yeah.
Which we didn't know.
But how could we doubt the perfection of the one making decisions in our life if we surrender to Him? How can we doubt that?
And how can you challenge His authority over us? It's like what Paul said in Romans. Can the clay say to the potter, why have you made me thus? The potter has every right to do whatever he wants with what he makes. That's how Paul presents God to skeptics. You know, how dare you challenge His purposes for you? Because His purposes are always good from His vantage point. And you will reap the reward for having done nothing simply by fulfilling what God has designed for you. You'll get the reward for it.
Oh. Yeah, you know, and you're saying to yourself, so you got that perspective, Herman. Oh, I can explain it. But do you know how many times I fall off the wagon, as they say? I mean, I'll do things and I'll go, what in the world, Herman, were you thinking? What were you thinking? You know not to do that. You know not to do that. And you did that again. And yet I know what to do, and many times I don't do it.
Yeah, that's Paul's testimony in Romans 7. The things I want to do, I don't do. The things I don't want to do, I find myself doing. There's a war raging within me, he said in Romans 7. It's common to all of us. So I'm going to ask you a question after I read this next verse. Verse 4. By humility and the fear of the Lord are riches and honor and life. So my question would be, what are the riches and the honor and life the Lord is referring to there? What do you think? By humility and fear of the Lord are riches and honor and life.
I don't know. You tell me, Dave, because I got my mind going crazy.
All right. Well, the way I think it means everything, but I think it's emphasizing riches with Him, honor from Him, and life in Him. Because humility and the fear of the Lord often prevent you from pursuing riches, often prevent you from having honor with the world, and can end up taking your life. So it must mean something more than just by you being humble, you're going to get rich. By you fearing God, God's going to just bless you with a bunch of stuff. That's not, because it doesn't prove true in life.
Yeah.
So it must mean something more. Through humility and fear, you are rich with the Lord. You have honor and favor from God, and you have eternal life.
So our whole life is geared to give Him everything because He gave us everything.
Well,
so
yes.
it's like if he give a man. I just recently I just interviewed a very, very wealthy man. In fact, Sharon and I have often said after he and his wife were here, she said there's no way you would ever look at them and say that guy is a multi-millionaire. I mean, he was in the oil business, banking business, and everything. And I said, yeah, I know. And I watched him get in his vehicle as he left. And what did he rent? A Toyota. I've seen people, I keep picking on the charismatics, but when they rent something to come here, it's an Escalade or it's a Jaguar or something, But this guy, they could rent anything, and you could not identify this couple as, oh, that guy's really rich. No way.
Well,
but isn't it interesting that it's almost like if God gives you something, what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it?
Yeah. Well, you can't keep it past the time you die. It's going to stay here. No matter how much you accrue, you'll have nothing. But what this passage is emphasizing is what Jesus said when He said, lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven. The way treasures are laid up in heaven, riches and honor and life, is humility and fearing the Lord.
What does humility, Dave, look like? Do you know humility when you see it in a person?
I think people no, because you can never really see into anybody. You think you do, and you have inclinations of what that person might be like, but we are all have many facades and many masks. But humility is at its essence knowing who you are before the Lord. So whatever traits, whatever abilities, whatever talents you might have, knowing that those are simply given to you by God, and they're to be used for God's purpose. So humility has the connotation of meekness to go along with it. It doesn't mean you think poorly of yourself. It doesn't mean you think you're incapable of doing anything. Humility means whatever I am, whatever I can do, it is surrendered. It is given over to the authority of God for His use and His purposes, because that's what I'm here for. That's what humility is. It's not condemnation or never refusing praise or accepting praise or thanks. That can often be false humility. Humility is just knowing the truth. This is what I am, this is what God made me to be, and this is what I'm going to use it for Him.
And it's consistent, isn't it?
Yes, because it's a worldview. It's a personal worldview of who you are in the sight of God and the sight of others. Yeah. So when people acknowledge and praise you, you don't get embarrassed by it. You might be uncomfortable by it, but you take it as they are honoring what God has done. And God has done
this. That's a good way to look at it. In other words, take it, that compliment is for God.
Yes, when
you gave it to me, but
I think it's a sign of wisdom and grace and humility when somebody gives you a compliment to say thank you.
Yeah.
Not to say, well, don't thank me, just thank God. Because that's often a misdirected, like I'm trying to be humble, I want to make sure you know I'm humble. Yeah. Just say thank you. Because it doesn't matter if they think you're humble or not. If God knows you're humble, that's all that matters.
That's it.
So the humility and fear of the Lord, God sees that, and the riches and the honor and the life are waiting for you there.
Boy, if we could get these truths. Can you imagine we're able and allowed to teach on Christian television in America this kind of material? Now, the reason I say that is because 10, 20 years down the road, My guess is this will not happen. And I know you that are thinking, oh, God's going to take over and everything is going to be what? Okay, I hope that's the way it is. But guess what? He is coming back. And you know what he's going to do to this earth? Purge it! So all of those mansions that I jog by that are like $5 million for the top penthouse, guess what? It's gone. Over. Anybody that's saving all that gold and food and everything, it's over. It's going to be a new heaven, new earth. I get a little excited, Dave.
Well, we're all getting
An
closer.
introvert getting excited is very unusual.
Think of when we've been taping these programs for today. We're an hour closer to the day we'll see the Lord.
Isn't that amazing?
We're getting. There's no stopping it.
And I'll tell you, after 80, I can now say after 80, I am getting so homesick for heaven. I mean, I'm not, I know people say that phrase. I am really getting homesick for heaven.
That's great.
I want nothing. I mean, we had some guests recently, and my dad was in the jewelry business, so maybe I shouldn't say this, but I've got a lot of expensive watches. Not a lot, but so I showed them to this guy that loves watches too, and so and I said, and I was telling her, I said, you know, I'm really getting homesick. She said, you mean you'd want to leave this? And I go, yeah. She goes, I said, in fact, if you know, my son wants all the stuff I've got. I said, if he asked for them right now, I'd give it to him. She goes, really? I said, you get to the place where you're not hanging on to anything. And I don't even want to, I mean, my car's got 200,000 miles on it, and I don't even want to get another car because I'm afraid, are you going to get attached to that, Herman? You're really going to like that thing so much? You know, it's like you get to the point where you don't want to get attached to anything. Mm-hmm. You just want to be free, and when he calls you, that's it. I'm gone.
You know, even if you're not free, when he calls you, you're gone.
Yeah,
if you're holding on to everything like this, that grip's going to let go the minute
that's
he calls.
True. Yeah, it's like sand in the hand, right?
Yeah.
Falls to your hand.
Yeah, a hevel, smoke. You can't grab it. Verse 5, thorns and snares are in the way of the perverse. He who guards his soul will be far from them.
Wow.
And the them is the thorns and the snares. So the perverse means somebody who's not going on the tried and true path.
Yeah.
So the imagery is of you have a paved road or a hardened down dirt path that people are on. That's the road. Off to the side is the thorn brushes and the snares. The perverse don't stay on the road. They go off this way. So the man who guards his soul, it doesn't mean thorns and snares aren't going to pop up in your life. It means you are not going to go down towards them. That's he who guards his soul will be far from them, because when you guard your soul, you'll stay on the path. The safest way to stay out of the ditch is to stay in the middle of the road, not to get on the side and try to balance, but to stay in the middle. So it's a comparison of a viewpoint of life. Perverse people push the envelope. They don't want to stay on the tried and the true. They want to know what's allowable.
Yeah.
The righteous man doesn't look as to what's allowable, but what is right, what is best, and it's a much more narrow path.
That's why I've been in a lot of trouble most of my life, because I push the envelope.
Everybody has a tendency to, because we want to get away with as much as we can get away with and obtain as much as we can obtain. But that's not wisdom.
Yeah, it seems doing this, like you say, staying on the road is boring.
Yeah.
So if you got that kind of thing going on, you're really, you've got to watch yourself.
Well, you know, not to point out any particular practice of believers today, but over the last 20 years, I've been asked many times by believers about a certain thing they want to indulge in. Well, what's wrong with that? That's the question.
Yeah.
And it's a great question.
Yeah.
It's a good question, but we really should be asking ourselves, well, what is right about it, and what is the best?
Oh, that's good.
Rather than always looking as, well, if you can't find anything really wrong with it, why can't I do it? Why don't we look to the more disciplined thing, like what is the best I can do? Sure, God allows me to do that, but He wants me to really do this.
Yeah.
But we go to the edges.
I can actually say, knowing this guy as many years as I've known him, that's the way he lives. It is. It's the way he lives. So it's truth coming out of the person that lives that way. Let's go.
Verse 6. Famous verse, everybody who hears it right now will already know it. Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. And there's a whole bunch of semantical things you can do to try to explain it away, but if you remember, that Proverbs are probabilities and not promises, you understand this is saying when you train up a child, and by training, it doesn't mean just telling them how to do it, showing them how to do it, walking with them as they do it, picking them up when they fall, encouraging them, promoting them, prompting them, instructing them, coaching them, walking through life with your child. As they grow old, they will not depart from that training. But that's a probability. There's always the exceptions. There's always the child who gets seduced by something or someone. There's the person who gets wounded, who gets distracted, who gets defeated to the point they can't handle it, and they do drift away. But that is a powerful probability that you can have an incredible impact on your child's life by training them how to stay on that road where there's no thorns and snares.
Yeah.
And if you train them to do it, they'll tend to stay on that road.
Sharon, my wife, she gave of her time with our kids. That's what you have to do, because it may be time that you don't want.
Training takes time.
But,
yes.
but you say, you know what, this is more important, and she just did it naturally. That's what you've done too with your kids. I mean, his two kids are just out of the roof, kids. But that's what you've done, though. You've spent time with them.
I certainly tried, but the Lord gave me children that were a blessing to parent. Yeah, definitely. David and Brooke were just wonderful children to be around, and loved every minute.
And they're so ugly too. I can't show you the pictures because they're really ugly. Anyway, let's continue.
Verse 9, he who has a generous eye will be blessed, for he gives of his bread to the poor.
Wow.
Now that's a connection is being made between the eye and the giving. So the generous eye means it's an eye who's looking around for a way to exercise generosity. So if we want to be giving people, we have to be alert to the opportunities around us, because it begins with what you see.
Well, that's right.
But if you're not looking, you don't see it. If you're not looking for people to help, you're not going to find them.
That's exactly
if you're not looking
right.
for people to witness to, you're not going to find them.
That's exactly right.
So the generous eye is going to be blessed because he'll find ways to exercise out that gift because he's been looking for it.
Yeah. I heard the other day that a police officer, I don't know what state it was, but gave this waitress $100, left her a $100 tip.
Wow.
Now, she never thought it was going to come from a police officer, but you ought to heard her attitude now about police officers.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing.
You know, that's a good point. Once you know a few police officers, you have a different attitude.
Yeah.
You realize what they go through.
Yeah.
And I have quite a few in my life and in my family, FBI agents and chiefs of police and detectives, all in my family. And then I have a lot of good friends who are law enforcement. And when you hear their stories, what they deal with, you realize they're just regular people with an incredible responsibility. All on any given day, their life could be in danger, and they don't know it when they leave the house that morning.
Yeah.
That's a lot of stress. And I would say whenever you pray for those who are in authority over you, you should be praying for law enforcement and fire and rescue people.
And you do that in your church.
We do it every Sunday. Yeah, we do it every Sunday.
Let's continue. We got 5 minutes.
Verse 10, cast out the scoffer, and contention will leave. Yes, strife and reproach will cease. And this is one of those powerful, wise instructions that seems to fly in the face of the Christian admonition to be accepting, forgiving, and be patient.
Wow.
So there's a point where you personally accept somebody, forgive them, and are patient with them, but in terms of the corporate body, this person is a negative influence and a deterrent to the group, and they must be cast out. Yeah. But it's not somebody who's having problems, it's the scoffer. Remember back to the last program, the scoffer is somebody who their viewpoint is so cynical and so skeptical and so irreverent that they don't endorse, they don't enforce, they don't promote, they don't encourage any good thing because they don't believe in any of it.
I'll bet you have never had a deacon that fit that description.
I have had the privilege of working with a number of people over the years in every kind of capacity who are scoffers.
Yeah.
And it's a hard thing to motivate a scoffer and to keep the scoffer's effect off other people. And that's that formula you see here. Contention arises when a scoffer is in the room.
Yeah.
Because scoffers have to have an audience. Scoffers have to comment. Scoffers have to bring people to their side, so they always cause a division. So as you get rid of the the strife ceases.
The atmosphere changes.
Yeah.
Let's continue. We have 3 minutes.
Verse 15. Foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child. The rod of correction will drive it far from him. And this is a frightening verse to many people, and certainly in today's day and age.
In politically correct circles, they would say, my God doesn't do that.
Yeah. And foolishness is bound up, means it's part of what a child is. Yeah. It's part of what human beings are. But as a child is growing, he's learning right or wrong every single day. He's learning consequences. The rod of correction is the disciplinary tool. Without discipline, children do not learn wisdom. Yeah. They learn indulgence. They learn to ingratiate themselves or to satisfy themselves, satiate themselves, but they don't learn how to say no. Yeah. They don't learn how to take a no. Yeah. They don't learn how to overcome when they've been defeated or discouraged, or they don't know how to forgive because they are entitled to whatever it is that they want. Yeah. Discipline, the rod of correction, drives that far from them. And it's a lesson for all of us to learn in life that when hardship comes your way, the Bible tells us, do not despise the chastening of the Lord. You and I as believers, we are children of God. We're going to step out of line. We're going to walk over on the edge. The chastening of God that comes into our life, whether it's His rod or correction, as in Psalm 23, His rod and His staff, they comfort me. Well, the rod was used to sort of snap you back into line into the flock. That we should rejoice in it, because it is from that we not only gain wisdom, we are preserved from troubles. We are preserved from wounds and from failures and from defeats that will affect our relationship with the Lord. Just as it is with a parent and a child, God is the Father and we are His children. Don't always expect Him to give you every single thing you want and to never face hardship and to never face His displeasure or His corrective action. We've been forgiven of our sin, but God wants us to live for Him. So sometimes that hardship that comes into your life, the disappointment, is not to punish you, it's to correct you or open your eyes or to turn you this way so that you can be a blessing to somebody else. And as you'd want your child to love you when you discipline them, we should love the Lord when He disciplines us just as much as we love Him when He gives us what we want. And to take whatever God gives us with a joyful, thankful heart attitude and be happy that He even cares that we exist and that He's involved in our life. The psalmist said, what manner of love is this that the Father has called us His children?
Wow. Great words. I surrender all. Do that today. It feels so good. God bless you. Bye-bye.